All right, let's do this.
Welcome first-time listeners and returners to the Sports Deli, where everyone deserves a seat at the table, especially our next incredible guest. So grab your favorite deli sandwich or bagel and your favorite beverage, and let's do this together in the Sports Deli. We are so honored on National Licorice and National Grilled Cheese Sandwich Day to welcome the pride of LaGrange, Georgia, the 22nd pick of the 1995 NFL Draft, out of Georgia's #1 public historic black college, Fort Valley State University, two-time SuperBowl champion, cornerback, Tyrone Poole. One of the most interesting things about his story is that during his senior year in high school, he quit football, in part because of his ego and pride, and today you will hear the rest of the story. Tyrone is, among other things, an author, motivational speaker, and entrepreneur, and he continues to build champions in the community and around the world in a variety of ways. He played for 7 different NFL teams over a 13-year period and only missed, get this, 4 games in his first 8 seasons in the NFL. He played with some incredible players and coaches, including Peyton Manning as a rookie, Marshall Faulk, another Hall of Famer, Marvin Harrison, another Hall of Famer, Warren Sapp, another Hall of Famer, Randy Moss, another Hall of Famer, Rod Smith, Tom Brady, the GOAT, clearly will be a Hall of Famer, and Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time. He was born the same day as Dr. Seuss, Big Ben Roethlisberger, Reggie Bush, and the same year as Busta Rhymes, Eminem, the Notorious B.I.G., The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, Keyshawn Johnson, and Gabriella Union. He's an author, and his book, Ultimate Success in the Game of Life, he will talk about later, and some of its incredible messages to people today in order to help them be the best versions of themselves. And speaking of the Super Bowl, his uniform number was 38, the year New England won Super Bowl 38, and hence the reason you can find him on a number of social media platforms with 38 as a part of his moniker. He believes that the 400-meter race is the toughest there is, which his daughter currently competes in high school as an 11th grader. And he's got a number of dynamic principles that he will share with us later to help you live your best life. You can find him on Instagram and Twitter at Tyrone Poole. Poole is with an E at the end of it. Tyrone Poole 38. And oftentimes on Clubhouse, where I heard him this morning pouring into the various rooms and adding so much value to people's lives. You can find him at TyronePoole38.com or TyronePoole38Foundation.org or at bullyingbuddy.world and stomp, STOMP.world. Man, we can't thank you enough for finding the time to join us here in the Sports Deli podcast, where everyone deserves a seat at the table, especially someone who comes to us from an HBC and a 2-time Super Bowl champion. Welcome to the Sports Deli, Tyrone.
Thank you, Hoot. Life is a university of life, and none of us will graduate. That's the crazy thing about it. The only time we're going to graduate is when they pronounce us. We're always going to be taking classes. So you just try to learn from as many people as you can.
Yeah, that's fascinating stuff. You know, like I heard you on Clubhouse this morning. You learned some humbling experiences growing up because you let ego and pride get in the way. And so what are the lessons that you learned from that helped you be a better version of yourself growing up?
What they see is behind me is just part of my life. Everything has a story behind me. It's a lot of stories back there, a lot of voices I hear talking right now. Me, pick me, pick me, pick me, tell my story. Growing up in LaGrange, Georgia, grew up in financial struggles, but one thing that we had that ensured that we would get through the day, through those 24 hours, we had love. I had a mother, had a father, and I'm the only child as well, so I don't know how many people actually know that. So that's something else you guys just learned about me. And no, I wasn't spoiled. I wasn't spoiled. I understand what it's like to struggle and want. And I understand also when people are trying to take and manipulate because you have some type of status. My job is to take what I've learned throughout my life, cultivate it, and then serve it to people. when I quit football in high school, I didn't know where I was going, but there was an alumnus from Fort Valley State. I tell people that alumnus could have been from anywhere, but she just happened to graduate from Fort Valley State and was working at LaGrange High School, and she was from LaGrange, and she knew football very well. Her son played football, so she knew talent. And just like anybody, she's recruiting for their college. Just like today, people see someone who's very talented. Hey, you ever consider going to such and such and such and such? Well, this particular lady, she grabbed me and told me, hey, you want to go to college? And Luke, all I heard was just, I just heard Fort Valley State. I just heard college, man. I heard another opportunity to put the helmet and shoulder pads on and to make amends for the mistake that I made. And even that mistake that I made, I say that it was a pride thing, but actually the more and more I think about it, is an ignorance. And a lot of us make mistakes because of ignorance. I had to stay after, which we had 6 periods in high school, and the 6th period right before practice, the teacher, I had to stay after to finish up some work. So you got a teacher who's saying, okay, hey, get your education. And then I try to get to practice. So I didn't have none of my other teammates who were in my class. So I had nobody to go and tell the coach what was going on. So I ended up going to practice late, and being a senior and being a leader and being one of the guys on the team, as they say, the coach, used me to let other guys know that you can't do this. And then that's where the pride comes in, but it's basically a lack of understanding. I didn't know why he was doing it. Why are you calling me out? I'm like one of the stars on the football team, playing running back. The coach, let me have it. So I get upset and walk off the field. But anyways, I ended up getting to college, still getting to college. I took a different route, but I ended up getting to Fort Valley State, which is Division II HBCU, like you stated earlier. And basically when I got to college, I was totally me, myself, and I. I had dreams of playing football. The Dallas Cowboys back in the day were my favorite team. Tony Dorsett and Danny White and Randy White and Harvey Martin, all them guys, Everson Walls. So big Dallas Cowboys fan. And I was so big of a Dallas Cowboys fan that I would write 33 with crayon on the back of my white t-shirt. And my mom like, what are you doing? We don't have enough money to go buy no more shirts. You got to stop messing up your shirt. You got to wear this shirt to school. So
that's fascinating. So the next part's even more fascinating. I mean, I've been following sports for a long time. You can see my sorry ass Lions are my team, unfortunately.
Hey, that's a Billy Sims. I remember Billy Sims,
man,
Sanders, and yeah.
Billy Sims was my man. I mean, God. But this is the interesting thing, right? You're a first round draft choice. Change positions. Coming from an HBC, D2. And so, there's a lot of discussions now about HBCs. Dion's brought some light to it. My good friend Hugh Jackson has brought some light to it, Eddie George. But there still are not people from HBCs being drafted, even though back in the day and the old school, that's what it was. But talk about, were you surprised, at how much success you had at switching positions? And your football IQ clearly is through the roof, and that you actually got drafted in the first round.
And I actually walked on. And I was looking at ESPN the other day, and I think they were showing the greatest walk-ons ever to play in the NFL. And I don't think they knew that I was a walk-on, because a lot of people don't even know I went to Fort Valley State. Right. But yeah, I walked on because I quit football in high school, right? So I have a scholarship. So I walked on for track and field, got a scholarship, and then I walked on for football that spring and got a scholarship. So I had 2 scholarships while I was in college. So
that is fascinating.
I never played defensive back. And like I said, I go out for spring ball, and guess where I go? I go over to the offense. I'm going to, play running back. And about the 3rd day of practice, the head coach at the time, Coach Doug Porter, he says, Tyrone, Coach Brown, who played, a few years in the NFL himself as a defensive back, Coach Porter says, Coach Brown wants you to come and work out with defensive backs. So right now, Hoot, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, man, look here. It was kind of easy, but I say easy because I had quit football in high school because I had come across an obstacle. I'm like, okay, I might well go ahead and let it go again and just concentrate. But anyway, I didn't. I went on and did defensive backs, with the defensive backs, all my big running back shoulder pass and thigh pass on and everything. And I think I played my first year, my freshman year, with big old shoulder pads, running back, instead of trying to be slim, like defensive back, I had big shoulder pads, big thigh pads, the running backs wear, and big knee pads. But anyways, my skill set was to the point where I think Coach Brown recognized the speed and quickness and explosiveness, and him being a defensive back, recognized it. So that's why I always tell people, sometimes it takes someone else to recognize your gift.
Wait, but I got to ask you this question. Well, hold on a second. I mean, you had to be a trash talker a little bit, right? Like, were you talking trash? Wow, you were quiet? Man.
Never talk trash, man.
You were Barry Sanders. Wow.
I was Barry Sanders. I was more like, well, you're a Detroit Lions fan, but Jerry Rice,
yeah, wow.
I don't know. I just didn't talk trash. Don't know why. But then as I got older,
you didn't give him a look after that INT.
but you're gonna show some excitement. Now, I did show excitement. I didn't show it to the point where I'm just so much superior. But as I got older, I see why, and I'm thankful that I didn't talk trash, because I've seen guys talk trash, and we as a defense, we would say, hey, okay, the next person that tackle him, hold him up. Hold him up. Don't let him go down. Hold him up. And then that guy comes in, he just lay the wood to him. And after a while, you see that guy who's talking that trash, he's not talking trash no more. So I've learned that, not to talk trash. And really, I kind of like, if I had to say who I got it from, I would say Jim Brown. I remember watching videos of Jim Brown, and they interviewed him. And if you watch Jim Brown, every time he got tackled, he got up slow every time, took his time getting up. Because back in that day, you mentioned the South and earlier, so racism was really thick back in the early parts of the NFL, and so they were definitely trying to hurt Jim in any kind of way. Not only racism, but just because he's the best on the field. We're trying to take this guy out. So he said that even though they would hurt him, he always got up the same way every time. So now they don't know if they hurt him or not. But you can tell guys these days when you really get into them, because if they are feeling good, then they pointing the arm, first down, or they doing a little dance or whatever, and then you start laying that wood to them, so to speak. You start tackling them pretty hard and, being rough with them. All that goes away. Now you're like, okay, now where's all that talking now? You're not saying nothing no more. What's up now? What's up? So I learned not to say anything, just get up and just be like Jerry Rice. We try to talk junk to Jerry, which I didn't talk junk to Jerry, because I'm like, man, y'all shut up. I got to cover this guy, man. But Jerry would never say anything, man. I'm like, our linebackers would get in his face, and Jerry just got up. And next thing I know, the referee put his hands up saying touchdown. So trash talking doesn't really get you anywhere.
Sometimes I ask this question later, but you brought him up because, he's tabbed the GOAT by many, along with one of your other teammates, Tom Brady. But what was it about him besides his disposition and his demeanor and his professionalism on the field that, made him one of the best? Because we really don't talk about that. We just, tag him the GOAT, and no one really says why specifically. They didn't have film in the same way. It was a different game back then. Obviously, he had a phenomenal quarterback, who didn't really throw deep.
People say he wasn't fast, but I think sometimes you got clock speed and you got game speed. Jerry had game speed. But I think what made him so good, and I've had an opportunity to cover a lot of wide receivers. I'll say this before I answer the question about Jerry. If I had to choose who I would rather cover, a tall guy, yes. Give me a tall guy. A fast, super fast guy, yes. Or a fast guy, yes. Give me that guy. But it's that middle of the road guy that really causes the most problems. I say the middle of the road.
Change of speeds, change of direction.
Speed wise, so he was able to run all his routes at top speed. And he was just a good master at
positioning,
really selling his routes. He would stem. That's what they call it. They call it stemming. He would stem you inward, and then he would break outward, or he'll stem outward and break inward. And he was good at like just utilizing his body to throw you off. And I think Deion Sanders is one of the best to ever cover as a cover corner. But I love Rod Woodson. I love Rod Woodson. If I had to choose a corner, I'm like, to start a team with based off the defense that I want to play, then I'm like, I want Rod Woodson. I'm like, that dude play all over the field, man. And Deion, hey, that's my boy. I studied Deion when he was with the Falcons and I was at Fort Valley. But again, even Deion had trouble. We talk about the Mamba mentality, a way of dominance that you believe in yourself and you're not going to let yourself down.
Yeah, but there's next level. There's, whether it's yards after the catch or it's positioning, you understand positioning, or how to sell it with your shoulders, or your hands, or there's a lot of nuance to the position that isn't often talked about, that, whether it's a quarterback looking someone off and, hitting the third progression, receivers, obviously do that as well. So he was obviously a master at that, just like you were, setting things up, and then closing speed is obviously different than others who don't have as much success as you do. What's the Patriot way mean?
It's just a mindset. It's a winning way. That's all it is. When you strip it down, it's like layers of onions. You're going to speak, understand, and think the same way.
Was it Tom or Bill?
It's both. It was Bill that created Tom. A student is only as good as the teacher, and the teacher is only as good as the experience that the teacher has been exposed to. So Tom has been exposed up until that time as much as Michigan or his dad or a high school coach could expose him to. So I don't believe that it was his days at Michigan that made him great, but I do believe he had the ingredients, which one of those ingredients was passion. And then he get with a coach with like Belichick, who has seen the game, who has understood the game. Now he pours in his information into a youthful mindset of a player who says, I'm going to be the best.
So Bill wore a hat very subtly a couple years ago that honored the first African-American coach to ever coach in the NFL. Didn't talk about it, didn't wear anything flamboyant. And Tom has, in my opinion, failed in this space, being a public ally. And he's not alone, in my opinion. It's been Eli, it's been Peyton, it's been Big Ben, it's been Blondie. I just want to hear people's opinions, because it's frustrating to me, not being an influencer and more of a connector, to see people with that platform either not staying out of the way or not being a public ally. It's unacceptable to me. And I think the players as a whole are at fault for not striking. Jim Trotter disagrees with me. He came on my show. But at what point do the white allies take a stand?
I believe everybody has their own calling. I think you can't make people do something that they feel like is not their lane. If you are doing anything to help society, I think you are doing your job. But at the end of the day, whether somebody stands up and wears something that indicates Afro-Americans or, that to me is great. But the bigger elephant in the room is humanity. No human being should be treated in any kind of way. And, Colin Kaepernick, I think he did a great thing. He brought some exposure, but I don't think he knew how deep that thing actually was, called racism. And it was so deep that he got blackballed. So if you're going to do something where you're going to make a splash, you got to make sure you got the right people behind you, because if you don't, then when you put yourself out there, they're going to get rid of you and shut you up real quick.
There are strength in numbers. I think that's sort of what you're saying, because if you look at the WNBA, the WNBA changed 2 elections and they forced an owner out. So there was the opposite effect and they didn't necessarily kneel as an example. Initially, they followed his lead. I will never let it go. I'm sorry. I understand what you're saying. Everyone has said it, but there is no way that Jim Brown, who you mentioned earlier, should be speaking on this anymore. And the women of the WNBA, which is 70+% African American, and at this point, it's a white issue. And so that for that reason, there needs to be strength in numbers with white people, and there's not. And that's my biggest issue. It's not a black issue anymore. It is about white people being allies and standing up for these inequalities, whether it comes to education, healthcare, small business loans. Tom Brady secured $30 million for his new clothing line, which he promotes. Great. Good for you, Tom. What about people of color who can't secure the same kind of funding because they're black? Like, there's so many levels to this thing about being an ally that I'm frustrated about. And like you said, he can do whatever he wants. Eli can do whatever he wants. They can push their brand. Blondie can do anything he wants, but you got to, like, out of those four guys plus Ben, for them to not be doing more publicly, for the brothers that they handed off to, that blocked for them, that, you know, they also made other people of color rich themselves. I get it. It goes both ways. But I just, and then with George Floyd, that was it for me. I was just like, you can't get it. Like, after Colin, I got it, to your point, because nobody knew what the hell was going on. It took some time to digest it. But after George Floyd, you couldn't get it. Like, I'm sorry, you're not getting a pass from me.
You know, I think it's a world thing, is a people problem. If we can all come together, helping each other, no matter what the situation is. At the end of the day, your goal should be to help that person be the best human being that they can be. And love is the only thing that will conquer all of what we see out here in this world that we see as evil and bad.
Well, I'm not going to debate the love part, but you and I can agree to disagree that when I see someone like Sue Bird doing what she's doing, and if Tom Brady is going to be a part of a coalition behind closed doors that supports Black Lives Matter, then why not put your name to it publicly? I just can't for the life of me understand that. I never will.
You know, I don't know why either, but again, you know, some people just feel like they do what they do. But again, at the end of the
you know what it's called, Tyrone? It's called white privilege.
Learn who you are. Learn who you are. Because if people know who they are, then they know what they're not. And you know what you can do, and you can go out and set your success up, and can't nobody take it away from you.
Yeah, I just wish the biggest influencers in sports in the white space would come to a different conclusion. It's just sad to me. Very, very sad. And not only is it because they have blind spots, or they're ignorant, as you mentioned earlier, or they're in denial, but the people around them won't say anything. And that silence is deafening. So I know Jerry Rice is the answer to the best wide receiver you ever had to cover, but who do you enjoy watching now on offense in the NFL?
You know what? I'm just a fan because I know the game. I just want to see good football.
You like the new overtime rule that they changed?
You know what? They're constantly changing things. Today,
yes or no, Tyrone? We can't get through the rapid fire.
I know that. Hey, that's how I give myself time to think. Who gets give myself time to think? I gotta take control of the conversation, guys. but yeah, you know.
Well, at least both teams, even if they score a touchdown, get an opportunity now, whether you like it or not. Okay, so you play with two of the best kickers that ever played, Adam Vinatieri and Jason Elam. Did you ever just go and try and kick a field goal?
Yeah,
just for fun.
I think wow. Did that. Yeah, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard.
Hell yeah, it's hard. Wait, you were fast as anyone during your time. How did you enjoy special teams?
I did kick return. Return, and I went down on kickoff coverage. So I actually enjoyed going down on kickoff coverage because you know, on defense, when we kicked the ball off to them, it gave me an opportunity to go ahead and get that first lick out the way, that first contact out the way.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's just like smelling that smelling sauce, that ammonia, you know, kind of wake you up and get you ready to play.
Ain't no returns anymore. They're kicking it out of the end zone.
I know, man.
Well, you said you like ties. I can't stand ties in the regular season, but that's just
I don't like ties.
Okay, because the ties in the regular season are killing me. I just can't stand it. That's ridiculous.
You play the game to win, just like Herm Edwards says. You play the game to win.
Oh man, that's great. Favorite food at a family reunion?
Anything that's healthy, man. I'm to the point where, I've always ate healthy. It's not that I, just ate healthy now, eating healthy now, but I don't know. Anything barbecue is always great.
Okay. Popcorn or candy at the movies?
You know what? The popcorn, because you can kind of like take your time depending on how much the drama is in the movie. You can eat it one kernel at a time, or you can just rip your hand and then get a whole face. But when you eat that candy, you try to, you can eat it too fast, and so I like the popcorn. It's long lasting.
That's hilarious. I love it. Favorite Olympian in track and field of all time?
I ran track in
Right.
100, 200, so I'm all about the sprinters. And now that my daughter runs the 400, I love that 400-meter race.
Wait, is she good enough to maybe be in the Olympics one day?
She's a junior right now, and that's her her goal. And I think she has an opportunity to make it, but she got to work hard at it.
Fascinating. I ran for Lou Scott, who was in the '68 Olympics in high school. I'm gonna tell you this quick story. You can tell your daughter this. He was a great runner. He was born with it. He just said he had lungs. He could run for days, right? But he found out what the top runners were doing back in the day. He doubled his workout. He was running 50 miles a day, no lie. 50 miles a day, 6 days a week. He goes to the Olympic trials. I think it was in '67. It was in Reno. Reno has elevated sea levels. There's wind that day. He's short. He's 5'7". And one of the people he was going up against was much taller, which in track, they have a huge advantage, all things being equal. So they're going into the wind on the home stretch, right? He's got his kick. He's been training for 7 years for this opportunity. And he doesn't know how he did it, but he won by one step. No one knows this guy's story. He trained for 7 years, 50 miles a day, 6 days a week, to have this one opportunity at elevated sea levels. He said for the next 6 hours, he couldn't breathe. His eyeballs were popping out of his head. He literally couldn't breathe. He couldn't catch his breath no matter what they did, but he made the Olympic team by one step.
Wow.
And I didn't know the story, and I ran for him for 3 years. He never shared the story with us when we were running cross country. And when he would make us do 10 and 15-mile runs, I was like, what is the deal, man?
Crazy. He's like, no, I know. Yeah.
And that podcast was fascinating. If you get a chance to listen to it, because he was part of the Tommy Smith and John Carlos protest.
Yes,
right. Yeah, it was very interesting. I still keep in touch with him today, man. 40 years later. It's amazing. Favorite stadium that you ever played in?
Oh, man. Any stadium in the where it's warm weather. Because it's grass, Miami, man, the grass is just like that out there on the golf course. I tell you, the worst stadium was back in the day when they
Philly.
Had Philly, yes. Veteran Stadium, man. That thing.
They had wood in between and concrete and the turf.
Yeah. And I didn't know this too, Hoot, that in Philadelphia, they have a court and a jail inside the stadium. And I think they had the same thing out there in Las Vegas too. So if you get in trouble, you're going straight to court in the stadium and being locked up. So
man, you heard it here first. MJ or LeBron?
You know what? They're both different. I think if you're looking from, who you want to get ball into their hands last, I just think Michael has that attitude, man, that he's going to will it. But if you're looking at a guy who can play all the positions, then that's where I think LeBron has the edge over Michael. So again, like I said about Deion and Rod Wilson, I would rather have Rod Wilson if I'm going to play inside, outside, safety. But if I just want somebody for that moment to take this receiver out the game, then both of them could do it. But I think Deion would probably have to be my guy there. So I would take Michael if I'm trying to win the game. If I'm just different positions trying to get mismatches, then I'll take LeBron. LeBron
or Magic. Deion's doing some amazing things at Jackson State. So before I leave the floor for you to talk about your endeavors,
I say this too about basketball. I got now white chocolate. White chocolate.
Yeah. Jason Williams was good, man.
Well, that boy there, man. Look at here. If people don't know who he is,
he was playing now.
He's a white boy. But boy, go back and look at some of his plays, some of his
passes. My God.
I'm like, man, if you like Magic Johnson,
Pretty sure him and Randy Moss went to school together. I can't,
Yeah, they
don't
did.
quote.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. So, okay, last question before I leave the floor for you. So if you could have two people at your dinner table that you've never met before, past or present, dead or alive, one male, one female, who'd be at your dinner table?
The Last Supper, man, I definitely would like to have Christ, just
Okay,
the thought. But
popular answer. Yep,
I would like to sit down with John F. Kennedy. I would say Harriet Tubman.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, what she did.
I don't know how you did it, Harriet. How did you avoid it? How did you
Right.
it? That's knowledge there, man, for real.
Absolutely. All right, tell everyone about your endeavors and what you're doing, and leave the floor for you.
Appreciate it. Who appreciate the opportunity, man. Come on your show. But people want to support the Tyrone Poole 38 Foundation. You can go to Tyrone Poole 38 Foundation .org. The apps, Bullying Buddy and Stomp, their safety apps for kids K through 12 is the Bullying Buddy. You can go to bullyingbuddy.world. These apps are phenomenal. Man, it's cutting edge. Yeah, we're about to take over the world. Like I tell people, you heard about Amazon. Well, TBB Enterprises, Stomp Enterprises is about to do the same thing. Stomp stands for Stop Traumatizing Others Mentally and Physically. Again, it's a cutting edge app. This app is for collegiate all the way up to the elderly, because there are people in elderly homes that are being abused mentally, physically. So now these apps give all of these individuals an opportunity to have their voice heard, situations seen, because in this day and age, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. So these apps give that strength of voice back to the people. A stomp.world, go there. Always check out my book. Go to TyronePoole38.com. Ultimate Success in the Game of Life. Too small, too inexperienced, which really speaks on the fact that I went to a small school. They said I was too small. The school was too small. Most athletes that come from HBCUs, they say, okay, you don't have enough experience. Well, I was able to show that really is not true. It's about 12 dynamic principles. And when we look back on life, hindsight being 2020, we always understand why things happen. So that's why I say a student is only as good as the teacher, and the teacher is only as good as the experience the teacher has been exposed to. Again, I just want to give people what they need to help them be healthy. So you can go to workthatthing.com.
I love that.
So that's a lot of good stuff happening. But I feel like the most important thing, if I could leave people with something, who I said it, I touched on it earlier. If you know who you are, what you have, and what you can do, you can fall down, you can still get up and win, because the only person that can stop you is the person that you look at every day in the mirror, and that's yourself. Ignorance is your enemy, and knowledge, the truth of knowledge of the truth is your ally.
You got amazing things in the background there. That's 2 Super Bowl trophies. And so you got all your memorabilia. You got your Panthers helmet. You're drafted by them, right? You got your motivational quote there over your left shoulder. All kinds of amazing things back there.
Leadership is earned during tough situations. Anybody can be a leader when things are good, but it's during the tough times when you can take a licking and keep on ticking. That's when you earn respect, my friend.
I love it. Fascinating stuff. I appreciate the time, man. I know it was a long time, but much love and respect. I'll see you on Breakfast with Champion. I always stay in touch with people. Anything I can do to help your brand and help you personally, please do not hesitate. Like I said, I'm not an influencer, but I am a connector of a connector.
And you are an influencer. That's it. If this is what I learned, if your actions make people want to do better, feel better, then you are an influencer. So people that come to your show, they tune in because they want to be better. You make them feel better. You make them believe in themselves, that you are an influencer just as much as anybody that you have ever had come on your show, or anybody that you would mention, no matter who it is. You're also helping them mentally, spiritually, and physically be a better version of themselves. So yes, you are a great individual influencer.
I appreciate the love. And this is the thing, right? When white people talk with people of color, even if they disagree, find some middle ground, and ultimately, like you said earlier, love has no color. Continued success. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Tyrone Poole, 2-time Super Bowl champ, but even better and more amazing human. All right, man, I appreciate you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, good luck. Have a great workout. Thank your daughter for being patient. I appreciate it.
All right, Hoot. Appreciate you,
I'll
man.
talk soon, man. All right, much love.
Man.
All right, you got it.
All right.
All right, peace out, everybody. Thanks for sharing space with us today. We truly hoped you enjoyed that amazing interview. Remember, everyone, Black Lives Matter. Stop the bullying. Stop the Asian hate. Contact your local and state politicians for any inequalities, for any individual or any group that's being marginalized. Also, everyone, we want to raise awareness for those individuals that are currently imprisoned for non-violent offenses, in particular those with long-term sentences that are disproportionate, in particular to those people in the Black and brown community. And I want to send a shout out to 40tons.co. 40 Tons is a socially conscious cannabis brand, and they're a social enterprise using the regulated cannabis industry to fight injustice, in particular for cannabis prisoners. So check them out again at 40, the number 4, the number 0, tons, plural, 40tons.co, because what they're doing in the cannabis space and being a socially conscious company is truly incredible, and they have my full support. And also wanted to remind all of you, if you're having a tough time, you can always call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and that number is 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, and they are available 24/7, 365 days a year. You can also always check me out on Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at Mike Hootner. Thanks again to our amazing sponsors, Breaking Tea, Sport RX, PSK Collective, City Lokes, and Moolah Kicks, which you can see right here up on the screen. You can search them online at breakingtea.com, sportrx.com, pskcollective.com, moolahkicks.com, and citylokes.com. And if you'd like to support us at the Sports Deli, we'd love to have you either make a one-time donation or feel free to make a donation monthly, either 99 cents a month, $4.99 a month, or $9.99 a month. If you have questions about that, send me an email again to thesportsdeli@gmail.com, and I will send you the link on how you can do that. You can also find it at the bottom of every podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Link at the bottom to support the show. Please check out our website at thesportsdelipodcast.com. Make sure that we continue the conversations with regards to 3 strikes and you're out and mandatory minimums, especially people that are in jail for non-violent offenses. So those things need to change. And remember, gents and ladies, please remember to do your monthly self-breast examinations. And remember, guys, this afflicts about 1,500 men annually, with about a third of those resulting in death. So we want to make sure that we do our monthly self-breast examinations, both men and women. And guys, remember to do your self-testicular examinations every month as well. Until next time, remember, it takes a village. For Dr. J and Coach K, I'm Hootie Hoot. This has been a production of Hootie Hoot Productions. Thank you for joining us in the Sports Deli, where everyone deserves a seat at the table. Remember, it takes a village. Much love, everybody.